I was looking at the app I like to use to find free stuff when I saw the ad for this leaf blower. But here's something to keep in mind. Please don't think that someone gave away a working machine. There's got to be a good reason why it was thrown out. But now that it's here with us, we just got to figure out what's wrong with it. Now hopefully it's not going to be too bad because, to be honest, this blower is the wrong shade of red to be worth a lot of money. In today's video, we're going to be looking at this Craftsman branded leaf blower. And the problem is that the pull rope isn't working like it should, and the engine is making a terrible sound as well. But before we continue, we need to record the model and serial number just in case we need to order parts for it. So here's the first problem, and that's the pull rope is not retracting like it should be, but not only that, listen to the sound the engine is making. As you can tell, it's making a terrible sound, which means we need to find out what's causing it. This blower is also very dirty, at least around the carb, so before we get too far, we'll give it a quick spray and rinse. Of course, you don't have to do this. You can choose to play around in all that dirt because it is your project. I wouldn't eat off of it, but at least you'll be able to see the food if it falls on the carb now. I'm going to give it some time to dry off, but you're welcome to dive into it wet if you want to. So for this repair, we need to basically take the entire blower apart, which is a bit annoying. But what we find behind the engine cover is a bit surprising and only deepens the mystery behind this blower. This is the plug for the engine sealing off the backside of the block, so with it open like this, the engine won't start. But it does show us that the engine is not turning even though the flywheel is moving when pulling on the rope. That means if we want this engine to ever start and run again, we need to either seal this opening or just replace it, but there is another problem. And that is, why did this part fail? Well, the culprit is easy to spot, but the reason is the problem. So it turns out the journal for the connecting rod has moved away from the crankshaft and made contact with that plug. So we can push the journal back into place, but I don't think it's going to stay in place, which means the next plug will get destroyed as well. So my plan is to seal off the damaged plug to use for testing and then decide what to do later on. So next up comes the task of taking the blower apart by separating the front housing and getting to yet more fasteners under the impeller. Luckily on this one, the impeller is not difficult to take off with an impact, while other models force you to lock up the engine first. And because the throttle cable and wires for the kill switch are still connected to the engine, we're going to disconnect them from the handle. That's because we want to completely separate the rear housing from the engine to be able to work on the rope and the recoil. But I will tell you that it's not as easy as it looks, and that's because there's a lot to keep track of inside the handle. And it's one of those details that tells us that someone else has been inside here before. So this is a grounding strap, and it's supposed to make contact with your hand, but someone installed it upside down when they last worked on it. And with any project where someone else has already worked on it, there could be mistakes that you need to watch out for. This fact is important for this project, as you're about to see. This is when we come across a minor problem. Even with all the fasteners removed, the engine is still stuck to the housing. It shouldn't be like this, it should be free. So that makes us bring out the universal removal tool, which finally broke it loose. And after separating the housing from the engine, we can now see what's wrong with the recoil. But come to find out, besides there not being enough turns on the spring, it works just like it should. Now to rule out a spring problem, we'll just spray it down with some lube and then work the spring. And when you know it, all that rope is now being pulled in, but because the rope is too short, we're going to need to replace it. It's hard to show it here, but with all that rope pulled in, we only get 2.5 turns on the pulley, which is not enough rope. And instead, I like to see about 4 turns, if not 5 turns, which is more than enough rope for most consumers. The method I like to use is to pull all the rope out, and then lock the pulley, and then replace the rope. Now I have been told that the way I change my rope is a bit untraditional, and I have to agree. However, I really like doing it this way, but you can obviously choose to do it a different way. You can install the pull handle at any time, but doing it now will keep you from losing the end of the rope in the pulley. Just make sure that you don't use a rope that's too thick, otherwise the rope will bind up on the pulley. But if you don't know which rope to get, try choosing a pull rope kit for a string trimmer. With the pull handle taken care of, we'll install the other end of the rope in the opening in the pulley. This was not easy to do. I'm just cutting out all the swearing and bloopers out of the final shot. It really helps out if you have a lot of patience, but if that's not you, then you might have to outsource this part of the repair. So hopefully you won't have to deal with it, but if I can do it, I'm sure someone else can too. Once we put a knot on the end of the rope, we'll then pull that knot into the pulley and then release it so the rope will wind up on the pulley. But once we do, that's when we realize that we'll need to put another turn on the spring so all the rope will be pulled in. We'll just take the rope and use it to turn the pulley clockwise once or until the rope is all pulled in. And in this case, it only needed one additional turn to do the job, but you might need more. This is when things start to make sense as far as why the engine is making weird noises. When I was trying to take the flywheel off is when I noticed that there's a long spacer missing from the crankshaft. It's there to push on the flywheel to keep it against the key on the crankshaft. But with it gone, the flywheel is now able to spin independently from the engine, which also explains why it was stuck to the housing. And speaking of the key, here it is, which confirms our theory about the missing spacer. That means the noises we were hearing from the engine was the flywheel skipping on the key on the crankshaft. Now hopefully the keyway in the flywheel isn't damaged from being loose, but luckily it still looks good and usable. For some reason, one of the springs for the starter poles has come loose, so we'll quickly fix it. But if I had to make a guess, it probably came loose because the flywheel was loose. But now that we know what was making that noise, which was a loose flywheel because of a missing spacer, we can fix it by replacing it. So here comes the fun part, or the hard part, depending on your perspective, which is the reassembly. The reason why this is so tough is because there are so many details you have to be aware of, otherwise it won't work. But if you keep the parts you took off organized, it'll make it 100 times easier to do. So what I like to do is use a long stick magnet to hold and organize all the nuts, bolts, and not to mention other metal parts like a spacer. Now because I'm a super penny pincher, I'm going to measure what size spacer we need for this engine because I'm not going to buy an OEM part. But by purchasing a universal spacer from the hardware store, I was able to save 10 bucks, which sounds pretty petty, but remember, this machine's not worth that much. And once the key, flywheel, washer, and the spacer are on, we'll then install the rear housing to the engine. Now trying to align the housing and the engine, not to mention the plastic part between them, was a bit of a pain, but it's still doable. Just make sure you start the bolts for the engine by hand, otherwise you risk damaging the threads. So here's some advice. Once you get the impeller installed to the crankshaft, check and make sure it can spin freely, and if not, you'll have to find out why it's binding up. And luckily for us, the impeller is spinning, so we'll move on to dealing with the engine plug. So this is my temporary solution to the inspection window in the plug, and that is to use JB Weld to close it up. This is not a permanent fix, so please try not to use this at home as a way to not have to buy a new replacement part. But if all goes well and the engine starts and runs, then we'll talk about replacement options. Now because of the design of the recoil system and all of the guides for the rope, we'll need to install this part of the handle to test the recoil. The reason I know this is because when I tried it without it, the first guide came loose, making it tough to pull the rope. But as you can see, with the rear handle part in place, it's working just like it should be, so we'll try and start the engine. Unfortunately, it didn't start, so now we have to wonder if we have spark. To find out if we have spark, I like to use an inline spark tester, but there are other ways to test for it. And as you just saw, there was an orange glow in the tester, which means we do have spark. But if you don't have a tester, you can do the same with a spark plug too. It's just really hard to see sometimes. Now that we know we have spark, we need to confirm that the engine is not worn out by using a compression tester. We want to see a reading well over 100 psi, and the higher the better, but anything lower than 100 will be questionable. So the reading is 125 psi, which isn't terrible. However, ideally, we want to see something close to 150. This means the engine is slightly worn out, but it should still start and run reliably, which is the important part. Now to help it start, I'm going to cheat a little bit and add oil to the cylinder to help increase the compression. We'll then add a bit of fuel, replace the spark plug, and hope it starts and runs. Well, we did get it to start, but we did have to cheat by increasing the compression a tad bit. Hopefully, we won't have to do that each and every time we try and start it because it's going to get old real quick. What I'm hoping is that after that tiny bit of running, it'll be enough to get the engine working and we won't have to go to such extremes. But if not, we'll keep doing it the same way until something changes or it breaks while trying. But at least we know that the engine plug that we sealed up is working well enough for testing. I do have to mention that putting the handle and the parts inside it back together is a real pain, so be careful when doing it. I had to do this several times because the cable kept coming out of its anchor, which meant the trigger wasn't working. So my advice would be to check the trigger once you're done putting the handle back together, otherwise you're going to get a surprise once the engine is running. I'm not sure why they decided to make the handle in two pieces considering it costs more time and money, but I'm sure they had their reasons. All I know is that this design is not my favorite because it's more complicated than it should be. Just remember one thing, and that is we haven't looked at the carb just yet, so the likelihood that the engine will start and run is slim. Most carbs in this situation end up needing servicing, and I suspect this one will be no different. We can get around this by just replacing the carb with a new one, but we'll deal with that later on. But a good way to find out if the carb is going to work is by purging the system and seeing if the bulb will fill up with any fuel, which luckily it does. But if yours is not filling with any fuel, then the chances of the engine starting will be very low. Now because the engine only started the last time with fuel in the carb, we'll do the same thing again. However, doing this might also flood the engine with fuel, which will make it impossible to start. Now that was pretty promising, but I'm going to increase the idle speed and maybe it'll stay running this time. Well, that didn't work, so maybe we'll try choking the carb this time. Unfortunately, it didn't even try and start, and even when trying to start it with no choke, it still didn't help out. Out of desperation, I'm going to try it again, but this time I'm going to disconnect the fuel filter line so no more fuel will be introduced into the engine. So I am a bit surprised that the blower ran as well as it did, but we did have to stop the flow of fuel at the start until it unflooded. But once it started and kept running, we then had to reconnect the fuel line for it to continue running. That means we definitely have a carb problem, which is flooding the engine and will need to be fixed before this blower can be used again. Don't forget though, there are two other major problems to take care of before we call this blower fixed. So my question is, did you initially think we were able to get this blower running again? Because I sure thought we wouldn't. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.